Now, that's a lot of players. And after each game, I wrote a letter to every one of them. We're catching up with one of those players today. Come and join us.
Only 11 men have pulled on the famous yellow and black Guernsey more often than Brendon Gale, and all have been out-and-out Richmond champions.
Gale's got a great run.
Never naturally blessed with scintillating pace or sublime skill, Brendon walked away from football after 244 senior games across 12 seasons, knowing he'd got everything he possibly could out of himself and his body. A selfless servant of his beloved Tigers, he put his health and well-being on the line week after week as an honest workhorse in the ruck or at centre-half forward. Robert Walls coached Brendon at Richmond in 1996 and 97 and caught up with him at home to discuss life after football.
Brendon, we're here at your home in Elwood. You retired 3 years ago. How's life treated you in that 3 years?
Oh, look, it's been pretty good, Ballsy. It's been a lot of change. I think in a month after retiring, I got married, which is a big life change, and then I had to change careers, which was a massive change for me. And the best change has been, not that marriage wasn't, of course, but was a little baby girl, a little Isla, and she was born April last year. So a lot of change, yeah, but it's been great. Mm.
And looking at your house, it looks like you plan to have more than just little Isla.
I'd like to, all things going well, Rob. I come from a big family, and from that perspective, I had a very rich upbringing, you know, lots of sisters and brothers and lots of things to do and fun and mischief, so I'd like to have a few more, and I think Jane's of a like mine at this stage.
Let's go back to when you played, the jobs you had, the courses you took to set yourself up, because you know, a lot of footballers finish their career and they think, what am I going to do? You were never in that situation.
No, I mean, I started on the cusp of professionalism. When I first came to Melbourne, I actually worked to, 3:30, 4 o'clock every day, then you go to training that night. Then it changed mid-career, and I didn't want to be sitting around doing nothing all day long, and one thing which I owe my father, he always said, prepare for life after football, and kept drumming it into me and drumming it into me. And so, yeah, look, I thought a study was always a really good mix. You're quite flexible. It never really was an imposition on training, because you'd always sacrifice to study any time.
So you completed a law degree?
I did, yeah, which sort of, well, the completion coincided with my retirement. I sort of timed it that way. So effectively, as soon as I finished footy, I slipped straight into the bag of fruit and head into the city.
And you've just recently been appointed to a new position with the AFL Players Association.
Yeah, and it's something I'm really looking forward to. There's a lot of law, a lot of legal issues in football administration these days. And look, I jumped at it, and the work I've been doing the last couple of years, it's pretty sharp stuff, and I've learned a lot and worked with some really talented people. But I just missed football, and I missed the vibrancy and colour of football and working with issues and people.
For 4 years, you were president of the Players Association, and I'll never forget the day you stood in the middle of the MCG and you spoke on behalf of the football community about September 11.
Australian football unites our country and is blind to religion, colour, race or political views.
The actual night it happened, I was watching you on TV, and I flicked over on ad break, and I saw a plane go into the Trade Centre. I thought, I couldn't believe I saw it, and it just unfolded from there. And that was the week leading into the second semi against Carlton. And for a whole week, we're just watching these events unfold. So it was a really strange, surreal time.
Yeah, can you tell us about the preparation for that day? Because you handled it so well, and yet you must have been under a fair bit of pressure. It
was the Brownlow medal night. We're having a few beers in one of the bars after, and Demetrio and Ben Buckley come up to me and said, listen, how would you feel about doing this on grand final day? This is about 2 in the morning. I nonchalantly, I might have had 1 or 2. I said, yeah, whatever. That's I sort of forgot about it and went home, and Benny Buckley rang me the next day and reminded me.
We can offer our thoughts, our prayers and our hopes to those whose lives have been changed forever. And we can wish for a peaceful and rapid resolution of this crisis.
The wording of your statement, what message did you want to convey?
Look, they did prepare a script, and they said, look, we value your input if you want to tinker with it in some way. And I think the words were to the effect that, we hope and pray for a quick resolution to these matters, and I just think it was pretty important at the time to wish for a peaceful resolution, because there was a lot of people jumping and posturing towards the nation going to war, and I didn't think it was probably the right thing at that time. So that was one thing I wanted to sort of stress. Apart from that, they were pretty much unchanged.
Now that you're with the Players Association full-time, how do you see things at the moment as far as payments to players, salary cap situations? I guess the list is endless, but what do you see as the priorities if we look at, say, the next 3 or 4 years?
Look, we don't only act on behalf and for the players. We've got to be very sensitive to clubs, because clubs are basically communities of football supporters. They're not like private organisations that make massive profits and don't share those profits. That's not the way it works. It's a very sensitive balancing act. I think in terms of payment outcomes, the last couple of collective bargaining agreements have been fair, and I think players have got their reasonable share. But I think the big issues are the image and reputation of players, and that's taking a bit of battering at the moment. I think the other thing we've got to be really mindful of is just the pressure and scrutiny that players are under. And players do give up a lot for the benefit of the game. They have a salary cap, they have a draft, they're told what they can earn and where they work. They have a code of conduct that intrudes into their private life as well as their public life. Now they want to have a 365-day-a-year drug testing code, which expects players to give notice of their whereabouts at any given time and place, and that's in their off time. It's all these sorts of issues that are really, I'm concerned about the development of players, and whether some players in the future might decide, well, if this is what AFL football is about, I think I might go and play soccer or athletics or something. And we want the best athletes to play football.
What about gambling in football? When I played, it was hardly ever mentioned. But I must admit, the last 8 seasons that I've been working in the media, I had no idea of the amount of people who take an interest in punting on football and football results. Let's hope that we never get to a stage where it's considered that a game was rigged or whatever, but it has to be a problem.
Yeah, well, obviously players and staff and associated with clubs are banned, but look, it could potentially be a problem. I mean, I see no reason to think it is at the moment, but AFL footballers, by definition, are risk takers, and and they get paid well for their toil and hard work, and there's some potential problems, I believe, with gambling outside of footy down the track. But look, I think the Players Association have done a wonderful job educating players about risky behaviour and some of these other issues, and at the end of the day, you can only do so much. It's up to the individuals concerned themselves to take heed of that advice.
Oh, and Vandenberg letting lefts and rights go.
The melee rule and the fines in the melees, players have been fined individually. Now we're hearing football managers coming out saying, well, it's pretty tough on the players because they have to fly the flag, and that clubs should be fined, not individuals. What's your thoughts on that?
If you're a player and I'm playing with Richmond or Richie Vandenberg with Hawthorn, and you have former all-time greats of the club coming in and saying, let's draw a line in the sand, and all of the other stuff was probably said, I mean, you're going to take notice, and especially when there's careers on the line. So naturally they're going to respond. If that is the case, and I'm not saying it is or not, but if it was the case, I think clubs have to take some responsibility.
In your own career, can you remember directors of football, board members speaking to you during a game, coming in before the game, speaking to you at half-time, speaking to you immediately after the game?
In all my time, Wolsey, and all the different coaches, I can't remember one occasion where a director came in, or a past player, during the course of a game and gave instructions or anything to that extent. I remember one comment, in fact, it was Tony Jewell, and he was director of footy at the time, and I played a game, and it was a shocker. And he came up to me after the game and tapped me on the shoulder. He said, don't worry, mate, I used to play like that every second week. So it's about the only time I've had feedback from a director. But to be perfectly honest, I don't think the coaches I've had would have stood for it.
Now, you played at the one club, the Tigers, for 12 years. There's talk of challenges. There are board members that have jumped off this year. Your name keeps coming up. Have you ever been tempted to join the board at Tigerland?
There's been reports that I was asked to join, and I rejected that offer. Well, that isn't the case. Look, you don't like to see a club struggle. And I'd like to think I've got some good ideas how good clubs perform, and I've seen some examples of bad aspects of the footy club, and no, not to go down that track. But look, obviously in my new role I'm conflicted out. I couldn't be involved, but look, I don't like to see the club struggle, and I think it is, and I think there's no doubt it's been badly managed.
Thanks, Tony.
Footy's a concern. There's no doubt about that. They're not winning games on the field, but I think the greater concern is what's happening in the back room. Because you can't, win premierships or play in finals if you're not solvent. I mean, the people who are running the club, the board, the president, has to take some responsibility.
Wayne Campbell, who's a good mate and you played a lot of football with, he's captain of Richmond at the moment and getting a fair bit of criticism for his captaincy. When you read that, when you hear that, how do you feel?
Oh, I feel a bit sick in the guts, to be honest, because I'm not going to go down the path of saying journalists who haven't played have no credibility. That's not the case at all, because there's some outstanding journalists who do a great job reporting on footy. But I think when you level that level of criticism at a player who's been a captain and a great player of a club and a consistent champion player for many years in some difficult times. I think there was one article that said he's not a captain's jockstrap. Well, that's absolute rubbish, and that is disrespectful. I wouldn't expect great champions to be writing that sort of stuff, let alone guys that never pulled on a boot. But I don't think Wayne will, he's got a pretty thick skin. He's had to, I guess, over the years playing at the Tigers. But, he'll bounce on.
Over the last 3 years, you've worked as a media commentator. How do you prepare for it? And for those who've played the game and coached the game and then you get involved with the media, crunch time comes when are you prepared to be honest enough to give criticism where you think it's warranted, because a lot don't?
I enjoy my time in the media with Gary and his team, and look, it's one of those development things. I love learning, and Gary Lyon, these sorts of guys are very good performers, and I like seeing how they work, and I don't see my career as being in the media. So from that extent, my livelihood doesn't depend on it. That being the case, I do pull punches. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going to line a player up and just give it to him because it's not my livelihood, and that's probably, some would say, being a bit soft. But look, I'm doing it for the enjoyment, and I'd prefer to promote positive aspects about a player or about a club or something. I'll find something positive to say.
When you watch these games as a media observer, and you might watch a team that the Tigers are going to play in a week or two, and you notice an aspect of their game, have you ever been tempted to ring one of your mates at Richmond or the coach and say, hey, I've noticed this?
No, not really. I mean, I've had my day. No one knows the opposition and his players better than the coach or the players themselves. We win it every day, so I'm not really prepared to go and do that.
When you finished as a player, how did you deal with the first 12, 24 months out of the game?
In terms of your sense of ego and self-worth, you think, gee, I thought it might be a bit better than this.
Take control of the way you watch the game. Go active.
Foxtel and All-Star Digital subscribers now have even more footy at their fingertips. If you'd like to see this week's fully interactive Fox Footy Active game replay, simply press red on your digital remote now and go active.
Footy like you've never seen it before.
You choose the camera angles, audio feeds, highlights and game stats.
And this amazing technology is available now.
It's just another fantastic innovation and all part of the digital revolution right here on Fox Footy Channel.
I love my footy, and now if I miss a game or TV replay, there's an answer to my problems. A great multimedia AFL website made exclusively available to Big Pond broadband customers. You can access a quarter-by-quarter news service, exclusive coach and player interviews, and post-match press conferences. If you're unable to watch it live, you can access the video archive and see your favourite games, highlights and audio interviews on demand anytime you like. You can even create your own highlights packages and video clips. It's exclusive and subscription-free to Big Pond broadband customers. And Big Pond broadband ADSL and cable customers enjoy unmetered downloads. Check it out at bigpond.com or call 1800 131 500 to find out more.
Want extra session times for blockbuster movies at the touch of a button? Go digital. It's like the cinema at home, and you only pay for the movies you choose. Extra entertainment, extra quality, extra lights, camera, action. Grab the popcorn and a front row seat because the movie's about to start every 30 minutes. Upgrade to digital for less than $2.50 extra per week, and you'll get a whole lot more. Call your service provider on this number. To get extra, go digital.
When the sirens sounded and scores are tallied, how did your team shape up on the weekend? Fox Footy Channel's expert crew has all the answers on The Winners. The Winners, 7:30 Sunday night.
Benny, a really serious issue that's come to the fore in recent times is player depression, and also how players cope once they retire from AFL football.
A lot of people think football is just a job where you sort of clock on and clock off and go home. Well, it isn't. It's a lifestyle, and it's as much as how you prepare off the field and you do training and games, because it's what you eat. It's the sacrifices you make with friends and then your social life, and your sacrifices with your family. It's all that injury rehabilitation. It becomes a consuming sort of lifestyle.
Do you have to be selfish to be an AFL player?
No doubt. No doubt. And to be any professional athlete, because it's about preparing. You don't clock off work and go and have a few beers with your mates. It's totally selfish and consuming, and that's why the wives and girlfriends just doing a magnificent job, because you come first. What tends to happen is you tend to define yourself through your football and your performances, and when things aren't going well, that becomes quite hard. And I think, looking at Nathan, he's obviously suffering clinical depression, and I guess his sense of self-worth and that is linked to his football, and I don't think that's a good thing. And just back on the Players Association, that's one of the big things, trying to get the guys to uni or to study, is to get that sense of perspective and balance. So you're not just defining yourself by your footy. It's not how many goals you kicked, but it's how you wrote or how you debated something. So it's really important from that point of view.
When you finished as a player, how did you deal with the first 12, 24 months out of the game?
It's hard because you finish footy and you've that sense of inclusion and involvement and adulation and ego and all that goes with that. That just stops. But the first couple of months, I was summer. I just enjoyed the freedom and just being able to let your hair down a bit. But then I went and joined a corporate law firm in Collins Street, which is about the most extreme change you can make for football. A pretty sharp outfit where you work pretty hard, and whereas my achievements in football had absolutely no bearing at all on what I did there. I mean, they didn't matter. But in terms of your sense of ego and self-worth, you think, gee, I thought it might be a bit better than this. And so, yeah, I had a few problems. I mean, certainly not pressure or anything like that, but yeah, it's hard.
What was the best thing about giving football away? What did you look back on and say, I'm glad I don't have to do that again?
I think just waking up Sunday mornings. But just the constant battering and just joints and bruises and, limping around and getting yourself up physically and mentally each week to say, gee, can I go again? Can I go again? I certainly don't miss that. I certainly don't miss tan time trials, but I don't miss those things.
In your position now with the AFL Players Association, and let me say I'm really pleased that you're on board there, the shape of the game with the television rights, to me, it's become a television sport. And one of the benefits of that, I think, is that we will have the 16 teams. If you're a young player coming into it, I think you'd be pretty excited that this was the time that you were stepping into AFL.
There's no doubt about that, and I have spoken to some young players at the club from time to time, and not just Richmond, but other players as well. And I do keep reminding them that, look, you are privileged. You are privileged. You are coming into the game now. If you play, you're lucky enough to play for the next 7 or 10 years or whatever, and you can do yourself a really big favour in setting yourself up. But there are responsibilities. You mentioned broadcasting, or the revenues from broadcasting are driving the game forward in terms of revenue, but and players are the beneficiaries of that. Yes, they are, but you've got responsibilities in terms of conducting yourself in a positive sort of way around the place, and you're going to be under greater scrutiny because there's so many more media organisations wanting a story, wanting a scoop. So that's the balancing act. So yes, it is an exciting time, but you're less likely to have your own life so to speak, and that's the price you pay. And I think most guys recognise that and do a pretty good job.
Our highest paid players, our very best players, I talk of Voss and Buckley and Hurd, what do you think is a reasonable wage for the elite of our competition?
Well, you'd have to say probably, evidently the highest paid players are getting around, $700,000, $800,000 a year. A lot of people can't believe that, and they're in shock and horror. But I think that the salaries players like that, your franchise players are getting paid are not only a reflection of just their ability and talent and what they bring to bear on the field each day, but it's also a reflection of their marketing and promotional abilities for the club, and that's recognised in the additional services agreements as well. So, look, I think that's around about the mark at this stage.
We've got a salary cap for players.
Yep.
Should we have a salary cap for coaches? Because you hear that it swings at the top end, close to $1 million.
No doubt.
At the bottom end, around the $200,000 for a senior coach, and then every club's got a panel of at least 3 full-time assistants who would be on 100,000 plus.
Yeah, it's a big difference, isn't it, when you look at football departments of Essendon or Brisbane compared with the Bulldogs, and look at something the AFL forced the clubs to have a good look at a few years ago. Not just the football coaching costs, but the whole football department costs, and they were sort of growing exponentially. They were sort of telling players to pull their heads in and they're getting paid too much, but meanwhile the costs were spiralling in football departments. So they've been pulled in to some extent. The difficulty is that, football coaching provides sort of future work opportunities for players coming out of the game. So, you don't want to deny them of those opportunities.
Changes in the game, rules of the game, extended interchange bench, super goals. You've seen ball out of bounds and last person who touches it, it's brought back into play in the Wizard Cup and so on. What rules would you like to see brought in that would make a difference to the way that we play now, and what would you not like to see brought in?
Look, I'm really conscious. The game is such a fast one these days, and like a game played on Telstra Dome in my last year is just incredibly fast because it's a fast track. But there are rarely contests. I think the beauty about our game is that it is applicable to all types of players. Your little sort of short-legged grunt sort of players, or your big sort of dinosaur ruckman, and if it's too quick, you'll like I play with Paul Broderick, who is just a great player and hard and strong and tough, but he couldn't run very fast or long, and he'd be lost to the game. Those real footballers. So I wouldn't like to get it too fast, because that physical aspect of the game is what people love. And I reckon the ruck situation's a big one as well. I think crowds love the clash of the ruck and they're starting the game, just the 2 big men go at it. But I think you can still have that if you do bring the circle in.
To avoid the collision?
Well, you're still going to get the collision, but you're not coming from 10 metres apart and just canning it into each other.
Yeah.
I've got no doubt some of the guys with these posterior cruciate ligament injuries is attributed to just the continuing collisions.
You played in the ruck your last few years. Should the umpires throw it up, or are you happy with the bounce?
No, I'm fairly comfortable with the bounce.
How many, what percentage of bounces do you think are reasonable that give you a fair crack at it? Because I guess the ones that upset the supporters is where you get the bounce that leaves one ruckman stranded and he just can't get there.
Yeah, well, that's true. Look, there might be sort of 20, 30%. Look, I may be wrong. But the funny thing is, I reckon it almost evens out. It's funny how that works. And different umpires have different little idiosyncrasies, Some are really high bouncers and some are low bouncers, and some have a bias towards the right. And if you go, patterns don't lie. You can actually work out that some umpires have patterns. So I think that's part of the art too. But look, I'm a bit of a traditionalist. Keep the bounce.
With the umpires, do you think that we'll get to the stage where we have full-time umpires? People say, well, the coaches are now full-time, the players are full-time. We should have more full-time umpires.
Generally, you find any given match, your first 2 umpires are quite experienced and quite seasoned. It's often that third umpire, it's a bit raw and tends to make a few bad decisions. But look, I guess if you could demonstrate to the umpires, look, if you're willing to really make the commitment, we'll make the commitment to you, and we'll increase, we'll make it worth your while to become full-time. You might attract more umpires, more quality umpires into the system.
When you started, Benny, you would have played on a lot of the suburban grounds, and now, of course, we pretty much only go to the MCG and Telstra Stadium, or in Sydney, Telstra Dome in Melbourne. Did you enjoy playing under the roof there?
Well, I did. I did like it. Look, I grew up in Tassie. My first taste of football was the Winners. I used to love watching all the old grounds, the Lake Oval and Princess Park and Windy Hill and the Western Oval. And when I first come to Melbourne and started playing those grounds and venues, I just thought it was fantastic. I used to love it, going to Windy Hill and soaking it all up. So, look, I think we were the richer for it. But, gee, there were some mud heaps and some shocking conditions, weren't they? Look, they're pretty spoilt these days in terms of facilities.
Oh, look, no doubt about that. But I must admit, I'm a convert. I love going to Telstra Dome. I think it's just the best place to watch a game of football.
Yep. And as a fan now, to wind up work on a Friday, to have a beer with a couple of mates and just walk over into the fantastic stadium is just marvellous.
Now, bit on the family life. Yep. Jane and Isla. It must be nice to be able to come home from work and not have to worry about the ice packs, not have to worry about going to the physiotherapist. Now, you handy in the kitchen?
Oh, not bad. Yeah, no, not bad. Not bad. When I've got the time, I like to cook. But, no, it's great. And I really... I mean, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I wish I'd have done it earlier, have kids and become a father. And I wish I had kids when I was playing footy. Because you had that flexible sort of way of working and training, and you had a few hours off during the day, you could get home a lot more and do that sort of stuff. So whereas, you know, I tend to work pretty long days and sometimes don't get home and see it all during the day, which I don't like. But no, I love it, and it's fantastic. And like I said, we plan to have maybe a bit more of a crack, and here we go.
Benny, it's been fantastic talking to you. Our viewers will be able to see an insight into a man who played for a long time, highly respected, and is looking forward to giving plenty back to the game into the future. So thanks for talking to us, and we wish you well in your new position with the AFL Players Association.
Thanks, Worsey. I appreciate it very much. Cheers.
When I coached him, which was for 3 or 4 years, he was just a kid. You know, he was 17 to 20.
Yeah.
And I rode him pretty hard.
Yeah.
And when I left, he would have said, thank God he's gone.
Yeah.
And Serge is a good mate of mine, his father.
Yeah.